This is the story that TLC cameras might have missed or perhaps were forced to turn away from. We are talking about federal crimes, a $250,000 government check, and a betrayal so deep it could land members of the Roloff inner circle behind bars. Imagine a scenario where a simple visit to a post office box ends in a felony charge. We are hearing reports of a massive legal battle involving the U.S. Department of Agriculture, a forged signature, and a secret bank account that was supposed to stay hidden forever. If these allegations are true, this isn't just about a farm feud anymore. This is about the FBI, the Treasury Department, and a courtroom showdown that ends with Amy Roloff holding the smoking gun. This is the scandal that changes everything. Before we dive deep into the evidence and the explosive court testimony that is shaking the foundation of the Roloff family, make sure you hit that like button and subscribe to LPBW Update. We are the only channel brave enough to dig into the reports and legal theories the mainstream media ignores. Turn on notifications so you never miss a breaking update on this developing saga. Let's set the scene for what insiders are calling the most financially devastating event in the history of Roloff Farms. To understand the gravity of this situation, we have to look at the financial climate of the agricultural world. According to sources familiar with federal farming grants, long-operating agricultural businesses like Roloff Farms were recently eligible for a one-time federal subsidy. This was part of a massive government initiative to support historic farms that weathered specific economic downturns. We are talking about the Agricultural Resilience Grant, a program designed to inject liquidity into family farms. Based on the size and operational history of Roloff Farms, the payout was substantial. We have learned that the qualifying amount for the farm was exactly $250,000. But here is the catch that set this entire disaster in motion. The qualifying years for this specific grant fell squarely during the time when Matt and Amy were still legally married and co-owners of the property. This is where the federal bureaucracy clashes with the reality of a messy divorce. Because the grant was based on past tax filings and joint ownership records, the United States Department of Agriculture did not issue the check to Matt Roloff alone. They did not issue it to the new LLC. The Treasury Department, following strict federal protocol, cut a check payable to Matthew and Amy Roloff. 2 names, 2 owners, 2 signatures required. This piece of paper, worth $250,000, was mailed directly to the main P.O. box used by the farm for decades. Now, enter the theory that has everyone talking. According to exclusive narrative reconstructions, Matt and his longtime girlfriend and farm manager, Caryn Chandler, were the ones handling the daily mail and logistics during the off-season. The check arrives. It is in a brown government envelope with the clear return address of the USDA. Inside is a lifeline, $250,000. For Matt, who is constantly looking to expand, build, and renovate, this money is pure gold. But there is a massive obstacle standing between him and that cash, and her name is Amy. If Matt were to do things by the book, he would have to call Amy. He would have to arrange a meeting. He would have to hand her the check, have her sign it, and then they would likely have to split the proceeds 50-50. That means giving Amy $125,000. For a man who has fought tooth and nail over every acre of that land, the idea of handing his ex-wife a 6-figure check simply because her name is on a piece of paper was reportedly unbearable. And this is where Caryn steps into the spotlight. The theory suggests that Caryn, acting as the loyal partner and business manager, made a decision that crossed the line from shady business practice into federal fraud. The narrative alleges that instead of notifying Amy, Caryn intercepted the check. She allegedly took the envelope from the P.O. box and brought it back to the office, away from prying eyes. The temptation was too great. They convinced themselves that this was farm money. They told themselves that Amy didn't do the work to earn this grant, that she was just a name on a deed, a ghost from the farm's past. They rationalized the theft, but a rationalization doesn't cash a check. To deposit a two-party government check, you need two endorsements. This is where the story takes a dark turn. It is alleged that Caryn took a pen and forged Amy Roloff's signature on the back of that Treasury check. It was a crude attempt, a scribble designed to pass a quick glance, but it was a forgery nonetheless. But they couldn't just deposit this into the main farm account where Amy's lawyers might see the transaction history during an audit. They needed a new place to hide the money. Reports indicate that Caryn and Matt went to a local bank branch, a bank where they were well known, where they were treated like local celebrities. They opened a new business account, a secret holding tank for this influx of cash. They walked up to the teller, presented the check worth $250,000, and deposited it. The teller, or perhaps the manager, seeing the famous faces in the endorsed check, didn't ask the hard questions. They didn't ask why Amy wasn't there. They processed the transaction. The money hit the account. And just like that, the crime was complete. Or so they thought. For months, the secret was held. The money was likely moved, spent on projects, or funneled into other investments. Matt and Caryn went about their lives, filming the show, traveling to Arizona, thinking they had pulled off the perfect financial maneuver. They underestimated two things: the small-town farming community and Amy Roloff's network. The farming world in Oregon is small. Everyone knows everyone. People talk about crops, weather, and government subsidies. The unraveling began innocently enough. Amy was reportedly out to lunch with a close friend, a fellow owner of a large nursery in the area. They were drinking iced tea, catching up on the kids, when the friend brought up the grant. She asked Amy what she planned to do with her share of the USDA resilience money. She mentioned how helpful the check had been for her own family. Amy, confused, reportedly put down her glass and asked, "What check?" The friend explained the program. She explained that every farm of a certain size that operated during the qualifying years received a packet and a payout. She told Amy that the checks had gone out months ago. A cold chill must have gone down Amy's spine. She knew the farm qualified. She knew her name was on the paperwork for those years. If a check was sent, it should have come to her. Amy didn't storm the farm. She didn't call Matt screaming. She got smart. She went home and made a phone call to the regional office of the USDA. She navigated the automated menus until she got a live representative on the line. She gave her social security number, the farm's tax ID, and asked a simple question: was a check issued to Roloff Farms? The answer she received confirmed her worst fears. The representative clicked a few keys and confirmed that, yes, a check for $250,000 was issued 4 months prior. Not only was it issued, but the system showed it had been cashed. Amy asked who endorsed it. The representative couldn't see the signature on the screen, but they confirmed the check was made out to Matthew and Amy Roloff. That was all she needed to hear. She knew she hadn't signed it. She knew she hadn't seen a dime. There was only one explanation. Someone had stolen her identity, forged her name, and taken her money. This wasn't a civil dispute anymore. This wasn't arguing over a pumpkin salsa recipe. This was a forgery of a United States Treasury instrument. Amy contacted her legal team immediately, but she didn't just hire a divorce lawyer. She brought in a specialist in civil conversion and fraud. They filed a report with the Treasury Department's Fraud Division to create an official paper trail. Then they filed a massive civil lawsuit against Matthew Roloff and Caryn Chandler for conversion, fraud, and unjust enrichment. When the papers were served at the farm, panic reportedly set in. Matt and Caryn likely thought this was buried. They probably thought Amy would never find out. Now, they were facing a lawsuit that laid out the entire scheme in black and white. Their initial defense was weak. Sources suggest they tried to claim it was an administrative error or that the money was held in trust for the farm. But Amy's lawyer wasn't buying it. They pushed for immediate discovery. They subpoenaed the bank records. They demanded to see the deposit slip and the image of the cashed check. The pretrial hearings were intense. Matt's legal team tried to get the case dismissed, arguing that this was a matter for family court, not a fraud trial. The judge disagreed. The evidence of a forged federal document elevated this beyond a domestic dispute. The case moved to trial, and this is where the narrative becomes truly explosive. Imagine the courtroom. The tension is thick enough to cut with a knife. On one side, Amy, looking stoic and determined, flanked by aggressive litigators. On the other side, Matt looked nervous, and Caryn, who usually controls the room, looked pale and shaken. The gallery is packed. The central piece of evidence is a blown-up image of the back of the check, displayed on a monitor for everyone to see. There is Matt's signature, flamboyant and familiar, and right below it, a shaky, strange scrawl that purports to be Amy's name. The trial begins with Amy's testimony. She walks the court through the phone call with the USDA. She testifies under oath, clearly and firmly, that she never saw that check, never authorized its deposit, and absolutely never signed it. Her testimony is powerful because it is simple. She is the victim of a theft. But the real fireworks start when Amy's lawyer calls the witnesses for the defendants. They didn't just go after Matt, they went after the enablers. The key scene that insiders are describing involves the bank manager. This is the moment the case turned from a dispute into a verified crime. Amy's lawyer calls Mr. Davis, the manager of the bank branch where the dirty deed went down. Mr. Davis takes the stand looking uncomfortable. He is sworn in. He is wearing a suit that looks a little too tight, sweating under the courtroom lights. Amy's lawyer approaches him like a shark sensing blood in the water. He starts with the basics. He establishes that Mr. Davis is the manager and was on duty that day. Then he displays the check. The lawyer asks, Mr. Davis, you are the manager of the bank that processed this $250,000 treasury check, correct? The manager clears his throat and answers, yes, I am. The lawyer continues, pushing for the details. And who presented this check for deposit? The manager hesitates for a split second before answering, Ms. Caryn Chandler. I know her. She is a customer. The courtroom murmurs. This puts the check directly in Caryn's hands. The lawyer presses on. The check required 2 signatures. Did you witness Ms. Amy Roloff sign it? The manager looks down at his hands. No, he says. Ms. Chandler brought it in already endorsed. She was depositing it into a new business account. She had all the paperwork to open the account, signed by Mr. Roloff. The lawyer lets that hang in the air. The negligence is staggering. He delivers the crushing blow. So, to be clear, you accepted a $250,000 government check with a potentially forged signature without verifying the identity of the second endorser? The manager has no defense. He stammers, but the damage is done. The bank broke protocol because of who the customers were. They enabled the fraud. But Amy's team isn't done. They need to prove that the signature is fake beyond a shadow of a doubt. They call their next witness a forensic document examiner, a handwriting expert with decades of experience working with the FBI. This expert takes the stand and sets up a projector. He shows a side-by-side comparison. On the left, 10 known samples of Amy's genuine signature from deeds, checks, and contracts. On the right, the signature on the stolen check. The expert points out the pressure points of the pen. He talks about the slant of the letters, the spacing, the way the R in Roloff loops. He explains that Amy's signature has a natural fluidity, a muscle memory developed over 50 years. The signature on the check, he testifies, shows signs of tremor of forgery. It was written slowly by someone trying to copy a style, not by someone writing their own name. He calls it a crude and obvious forgery. He states scientifically that there is a 0% probability that Amy Roloff signed that document. The defense tries to cross-examine, but they are drowning. They try to suggest that maybe Amy signed it in a rush. Maybe she signed it on the dashboard of a car. But the expert shuts them down. The mechanics of the writing are fundamentally different. It is a fake. And then the final nail in the coffin. The bank, realizing they are now facing massive liability for cashing a fraudulent check, decides to cooperate fully to save their own skin. They turn over the security camera footage from the day of the deposit. The courtroom screens flicker to life. The black and white grainy footage shows the lobby of the bank. The timestamp is clear. We see Caryn Chandler walk in. She is alone. She is holding the envelope. She walks up to the teller window. We see her chatting, laughing. We see her slide the check across the counter. We see the teller process it. We see Caryn walk away. Amy is nowhere in the frame. Matt is nowhere in the frame. It is Caryn executing the final step of the theft caught on camera. The visual evidence contradicts every excuse the defense tried to make. It proves she had sole possession of the forged instrument. The closing arguments are brutal. Amy's lawyer paints a picture of greed and entitlement. He argues that Matt and Caryn believed they were above the law, that they believed Amy was a nuisance to be bypassed rather than a partner to be respected. He asked the judge for full restitution and punitive damages to punish this behavior. The judge does not need long to deliberate. In a civil bench trial of this magnitude, when the evidence is this overwhelming, the ruling often comes swiftly. The judge looks at the defendants. Matt is staring at the table. Caryn is looking at the floor. The judge begins to speak, and the room falls silent. The judge states that forgery of a U.S. Treasury check is a federal crime, a serious offense that strikes at the integrity of the financial system. He calls the evidence irrefutable. He notes the testimony of the bank manager and the video footage. He declares judgment for the plaintiff, Ms. Amy Roloff. The ruling is specific and devastating. The judge orders the defendants, Mr. Roloff and Ms. Chandler, to immediately pay Ms. Roloff her 50% share of the subsidy, which is $125,000. But he doesn't stop there. He notes the malice involved. He notes the intentional deception. Because of the fraudulent conduct, the judge awards an equal amount in punitive damages. That is another $125,000. The total judgment against Matt and Caryn is $250,000. They stole the check, and now they have to pay back the full amount of the check to Amy alone. But the judge delivers one final warning that sends shockwaves through the room. He states, "This court will be notifying the U.S. Attorney's Office of these findings. This moves the issue from civil court to criminal potential." The judge is essentially referring to Caryn for prosecution for bank fraud and forgery. The aftermath of the verdict is chaos. Amy walks out of the courthouse with her head held high, vindicated. She has exposed the truth. She has secured her financial rights. But for Matt and Caryn, the nightmare is just beginning. They are on the hook for $250,000, payable immediately. Their assets could be frozen if they don't pay. And looming over Caryn is the threat of federal charges. The reports suggest that the U.S. Attorney is already reviewing the transcript of the bank manager's testimony. This story highlights the absolute depths that the feud at Roloff Farms has reached. It is no longer just about who gets the big house or who runs the pumpkin patch. It is about felonies, fraud, and the destruction of reputations. Amy Roloff stood up to the machine and she won. She proved that you cannot simply erase someone's rights with a forged signature and a smile. As we wait for the next phase of this drama, the potential criminal indictment of Caryn Chandler, we have to wonder what this does to the future of the show. Can TLC continue to employ someone under federal investigation for stealing from a cast member? Will Matt turn on Caryn to save himself? The insider theories suggest that the cracks in their relationship are already showing. This lawsuit might be the wedge that finally splits them apart. We will continue to track every filing, every rumor, and every leak coming out of the Oregon courts. This story is far from over. The money has been awarded, but the justice system is just getting started. Stay tuned because the next update could be the one where we see mugshots. This is the reality behind the reality TV show, and it is darker than anyone imagined. If you thought the civil verdict was the end of the story, you are dead wrong. In fact, the judge's ruling was just the first domino in a chain reaction that is currently threatening to burn Roloff Farms to the ground. We are back with an emergency deep dive into the fallout of the stolen subsidy scandal, and the new information coming out of Oregon is nothing short of catastrophic for Matt Roloff and Caryn Chandler. The civil trial cost them money, but what is happening now could cost them their freedom. We have received reports from sources close to the production team that the atmosphere at the farm has shifted from panic to total warfare. Following the judge's order to pay Amy Roloff $250,000 immediately, the reality of the situation crashed down on the couple. But here is the twist that no one saw coming. We are hearing exclusive details about a massive blow-up between Matt and Caryn in the parking lot of the courthouse moments after the verdict was read. Witnesses describe a scene where the carefully curated image of the happy couple completely shattered. According to lip readers and onlookers, Matt was reportedly heard blaming Caryn for the sloppiness of the forgery. The narrative being pieced together suggests that Matt is already looking for an exit strategy. He is a survivor. He has survived health scares, a divorce, and business downturns. It appears he has decided that he will not survive a federal prison sentence for Caryn Chandler. The alliance is broken. Let's talk about the money, because the transfer of that $250,000 was not simple. We have learned that Matt's liquidity is not what it appears to be on TV. To pay Amy the judgment and the punitive damages within the court-ordered time frame, insiders suggest Matt had to liquidate heavy machinery and pull from emergency farm reserves. Watching that money leave his account and go directly to Amy, the woman he pushed off the farm, was described by a family friend as the most humiliating moment of Matt's life. But Amy didn't just take the money and smile. She reportedly sent a forensic accountant to ensure the funds came from legitimate sources, adding insult to injury. But the financial pain is nothing compared to the legal storm that made landfall 48 hours later. Remember the judge's promise to notify the U.S. Attorney's Office? That was not an idle threat. We have reports that federal agents visited Roloff Farms earlier this week. This was not a social call. This was an investigative interview. The FBI investigates bank fraud and theft of government property. When a federal judge hands them a case on a silver platter with sworn testimony and video evidence, they move fast. The theory circulating among legal experts watching this case is that the feds are looking to cut a deal. They don't usually go after two people if they can get one to flip on the other. The question is, who talks first? Does Caryn turn on Matt and say he instructed her to sign the check? Or does Matt throw Caryn to the wolves, claiming she acted entirely alone to pad the account? Our sources indicate that Matt has already retained separate criminal counsel, distinct from the lawyer representing Caryn. In the legal world, that is the smoking gun of a breakup. It means their interests are no longer aligned. It means Matt is preparing to testify against her to save the farm. Now, let's pivot to the network. TLC is reportedly in full-blown crisis mode. They have dealt with scandals before, divorces, feuds, molestation scandals with other families, but active federal bank fraud committed during the filming timeline is a nightmare scenario. Executives are allegedly scrambling to review the footage from that season. They are terrified that their cameras might have inadvertently captured audio or video of the conspiracy. If TLC footage shows Matt and Caryn discussing the check or the new account, the network could be subpoenaed. They could be dragged into the federal investigation as witnesses. There are rumors of an emergency Zoom meeting involving the highest levels of discovery and TLC production. The topic? The morality clause in the Roloff contracts. Every reality star signs a contract stating that if their behavior brings disrepute to the network or involves criminal activity, they can be fired immediately without payout. We are hearing that the network is drafting a contingency plan to film the next season without Caryn. They are preparing to edit her out of the narrative entirely if an indictment drops. Imagine the show without Caryn. Imagine Matt Roloff alone in the big house, facing the cameras while his girlfriend sits in a defendant's chair in federal court. That is the season finale we are hurtling towards, but the collateral damage extends to the children. The reaction from the Roloff kids, specifically Zach and Tori, has been swift and brutal. While they have been estranged from Matt over the land negotiations, this fraud scandal has validated every suspicion they ever had about Caryn. We are told that Zach allegedly sent a text message to his father that was short and final. The gist of the message was that as long as Caryn is part of his life, neither of them will ever see the grandchildren again. They are drawing a hard line. They view the theft of Amy's money as an attack on the family legacy. It is one thing to be a tough negotiator. It is another to steal from the mother of your children. This has isolated Matt completely. He is stuck in the big house with a woman he is legally at war with, while his children refuse to speak to him, and the federal government is auditing his life. And it gets worse. Let's dig into a theory that is gaining traction regarding the secret ledger. During the discovery phase of the civil trial, when Amy's lawyers were hunting for the subsidy money, they allegedly stumbled upon transaction anomalies in the farm's operating account. These were small withdrawals, transfers to unknown LLCs, and expenses marked as consulting fees. The theory is that the stolen subsidy check was just the tip of the iceberg. There is speculation that Caryn, who had unfettered access to the books, may have been siphoning money from the farm for years. If the FBI forensic accountants dig into this, they won't just find a stolen check, they might find a pattern of embezzlement. If this turns out to be true, Matt isn't just a co-conspirator, he is also a victim who was too blinded by love to see he was being robbed. This would explain why he is suddenly so eager to separate his legal defense from hers. We also need to discuss the wire theory. This is the most explosive rumor of the week. There is chatter that during the confrontation phase, before the lawsuit was filed, Amy may have legally recorded a phone call with Matt. Oregon is a one-party consent state for electronic recording, meaning as long as Amy knew she was recording, she didn't have to tell Matt. Insider theories suggest that in this recorded call, Matt tried to apologize. He tried to smooth things over. And in doing so, he may have admitted that he knew about the forgery. He may have said something like, "We were just trying to use the money for the barn. We were going to pay you back." If this recording exists, and if it is in the hands of the U.S. attorney, Matt's defense that Caryn did it all evaporates. He becomes an accessory after the fact or a co-conspirator. The pressure is mounting. We have learned that Caryn has not been seen at the farm for 3 days. Her car is missing from the driveway. Speculation is running rampant that she has retreated to her parents' home or a separate property to avoid the media circus and perhaps to avoid Matt. The silence from her camp is deafening. Usually, when reality stars are accused of something, they issue a statement. They post a vague quote on Instagram about haters and truth. But Caryn has gone dark. That is what people do when their lawyers tell them to shut up because they are about to be arrested. And what about Amy? She is currently the most powerful person in this dynamic. With the judgment money in hand, she has fully separated herself from the toxic financial web of the farm. But sources say she is not celebrating. She is heartbroken. She is watching the father of her children face ruin. However, she has reportedly told friends that she will not intervene to stop the federal investigation. She believes in accountability. She gave them a chance to make it right before the lawsuit, and they lied to her face. Now, she is letting the chips fall where they may. The next 48 hours are critical. We are keeping a close watch on the federal court docket in Oregon. We are waiting for the filing of an indictment. The charges we are anticipating are violation of 18 U.S. Code Section 510, forging endorsements on Treasury checks, and 18 U.S. Code Section 1344, bank fraud. These carry sentences of up to 30 years in prison. This is not reality TV drama. This is federal penitentiary time. If an indictment is handed down, the arraignment will be public. We will see Matt and Caryn walking into a federal building, likely in handcuffs, to enter a plea. That image will act as the series finale for the version of Little People, Big World that we know. There is one final report that could change everything. A source close to the farm staff claims that Matt has been holding late-night meetings with a realtor. Not just any realtor, but a specialist in commercial agricultural liquidation. The theory is that Matt knows the legal bills and the potential fines are going to bankrupt him. He might be preparing to do the unthinkable: sell the entirety of Roloff Farms. Not a slice, not the big house, but the whole thing. He might be cashing out to pay for his defense and escape the jurisdiction. If he sells the farm, the legacy is gone. The show is gone. And it will all be because of one stolen check. We are witnessing the Greek tragedy of the Roloff family: hubris, greed, and betrayal. As we wait for the FBI's next move, ask yourself, was it worth it? Was $250,000 worth destroying a 30-year legacy? We will be live streaming the moment any charges are filed. Do not touch that dial. Make sure you are subscribed, because the next notification you get from us might be the breaking news of an arrest. The walls are closing in on Roloff Farms, and the truth is finally coming out.